Today's conversation is kind of interesting, and I gotta tell you, sometimes the medical community, man, doctors, they just miff me, because you guys turn to your healthcare professionals as experts when it comes to the body, when it comes to your health. And time after time and again, for me as a fitness professional, one of the things that drives me wild, drives me absolutely insane, is when doctors tell their patients kind of like erroneous information or things that I as a fitness professional understand because I've been studying the body, anatomy, kinesiology, endocrinology, and all that stuff for a number of years and have hands-on real world experience. So to hear doctors kind of refuting information that has been studied, that has been presented, that has been mulled over, and to present a point of view that they have to know in their hearts is kind of detrimental to their patient base, it drives me absolutely insane. And today's conversation is going to take us there too. So what are we talking about? Today, what I want to bring to your attention is a video that I came across recently that was posted on the Today Show. Okay, listen, let's get real here. We know the Today Show is a bunch of, pseudoscience, BS. It's like entertainment, right? It's like news entertainment. So sometimes the things that they share is spot on, and a lot of times the things that they share is kind of half-truths and sensationalism. So I came across this video and I just watched it in disbelief. And I wanted to talk about it today because some of you might have seen this video and some of you may have actual questions about this. When it comes to diet, should you be counting calories? Do calories matter? For years and years and years, the fitness industry has told you that you don't have to, calories in, calories out is what creates weight loss, weight maintenance, building muscle, right? What you eat, what you put into your body, and how much you burn. That's pretty much the equation, right? But the fitness industry has also instilled some really crazy things in your head about carbohydrates and whether or not you should be eating breads, grains, rice, potatoes, all of those things. And I tell you what, so many of you are afraid to eat these things because you've been told that they're bad, that they're evil, that they're no good for the body, that eating any kind of vegetable, eating any kind of like carbs or anything like that is going to do a terrible thing for your body. What's the truth is the question, right? That's what we want to talk about today. I want you to drop your fear of carbohydrates. I want you to drop your fear of just eating, and I want you to become free in your head. I want you to have balance. So today we're going to go ahead and dig into what you should be doing when weight loss is your goal. Should you be counting calories? Should you forget counting calories? Should you just eat what you want? Or should you just cut out carbs or eat only protein, intermittent fast? What is it, right? We're going to talk about that today. So before we do that, I want to welcome you here to the channel. If you've not subscribed, please go ahead and make sure you subscribe right now and hit that bell notification, set it to all notifications so you don't miss a video. I am working with new clients right now, so that is the link to go ahead and get yourself set up. You get to the end of this video, you think that we would be a good match to get you going. Make sure that you go to my website, link is down below in the description for this video, and set up a complimentary call for us to talk about what your goals are and what's getting you stuck and see if we can work together. And I also want to throw in before we get started today, is my channel memberships here on the channel. If you're not ready for coaching, but you want some extra stuff, extra advice, I put a lot of my older videos on here where I get really into deep conversations about training, nutrition, fitness, all that stuff is in my member section. And every month I will be releasing workouts starting this month. Workouts for the gym, that is, okay? Printable workouts, because you guys don't seem to like video workouts here, so we ain't gonna do that. And also monthly coaching advice and stuff like that. So join as a member to get access to all of that and more. So guys, let's go ahead and get started. Let me go ahead and see if we got the chat rolling in here. We do have folks in the chat. Doug gave me some crazy eyes. Say what? That doesn't count. Let's get into it. All right, so let's get ahead and get into it. Now, I have this video that y'all have to see. You will not believe it. So I'm going to just go without further ado. Let's just go ahead and get into it. So this video, if you want the link to it to see it for yourself, go ahead down to the description for this video. You can go ahead and watch it there. But let's go ahead and see what the Today Show has to
It's
say.
the weight loss mantra that doctors have been touting for decades. Eat less, move more, and those extra pounds will disappear. Advice that 42-year-old Jennifer Haynes says she tried to follow.
Did anything ever click or work?
Not really. Every time I would do it, I couldn't stick with it.
How did the weight gain affect you physically?
Physically, I was very tired. I was very depressed.
A brand new report by a group of obesity doctors and scientists finds that telling people to eat less could actually be causing more harm than good, and that restricting calories not only causes people to be more hungry, but also slows down metabolism.
I want to stop right there, all right, just for a moment, because there are some important things that were already hit in this video that I want to make sure that we go back and we talk about. So I think that the diet industry makes weight loss more complicated than it needs to be, right? So the first thing that we hear the woman who's featured say is that calorie counting did not work for her. She always tried and she failed. And one of the things that was the biggest problem with her is that she had low energy. And she's going to go into some other things in a moment as well, right? Here's the thing that I have to say off the bat for most of you that you have to be very cognizant of. And that's the fact that most of you, when it comes to calorie restriction and eating less, you are cutting your calories too far. And that's the reason why you're having such trouble when it comes to compliance dietarily, energy levels, and even seeing yourself hit plateaus, because guess what? When you cut calories too low, you actually set yourself up for slowing down your metabolism a lot faster and for setting yourself up on plateaus. So you guys, we have to really get into this mindset of stop blaming your body, stop blaming the diet on what's going on, and look at what actions you're taking that may be more detrimental to your goals than you realize. One of those things, eating too low of calories every single day to see the results that you want. When it comes to how much you should be eating, right? If you want to say, Roxy, calorically, how much should I be really eating to see what I want to happen with my body? I would say this is our basic equation. What we'd like to do is I like to tell you to take 15, multiply that by your body weight in pounds, right? And that's a huge number for a lot of you. Now from that, you want to subtract about 250 to 500 calories, all right? And I would even say if you have a slower metabolism, you might even want to take 13 or 14 times your body weight and let that be your base maintenance calories, and then subtract the 250 to 500 calories from there. That gives you roughly where your calories should be for weight loss. Now, a lot of you are going to be stunned because that number is higher than what you're used to. But there's always that thing that we say in my coaching practice, and that is what? You've got to eat to be lean. You got to eat to be strong. You got to eat to have the body of your dream. Food is your greatest ally in this game. It is not your worst enemy. So based on that, let's go back into our video and see what else is her issue.
Harvard pediatrician and endocrinologist Dr. David Ludwig is the report's lead author. He and his colleagues are suggesting a whole new approach called the carbohydrate insulin model. The idea is...
And I'm actually, you know what, let me go back a little bit, guys, because I think we need to go back. I think we missed a little section. Doug says that he uses that formula. Very good, Doug. I mean, listen, welcome Olivia to the channel. Doug, listen, I think that it's a lot for some of you. Again, it's a scary number because it's a lot of calories, but at the same time, it's exactly what your body kind of needs in order to see the weight loss that you want without starving yourself. So we're just going to scrub back just a little bit right about here. Maybe a little bit further. Okay, we'll go about here.
I was very tired. I was very depressed.
A brand new report by a group of obesity doctors and scientists finds that telling people to eat less could actually be causing more harm than good, and that restricting calories not only causes people to be more hungry, but also slows down metabolism.
So let's stop on this right here for a second. You guys, I want you to change your relationship with hunger, okay? Hunger is not a bad thing. When you're in fat loss, you should be hungry. That's like not rocket science. And this is the things that the diet industry does not tell you. They want to tell you you can lose weight without being hungry. You can diet without hunger, but that's not necessarily true. What I want you to think about hunger in the case of fat loss, because that's what we're talking about here, is you want to look at the degree of your hunger. On a scale of 10, 1 being that you're absolutely full and you're feeling, stuffed, 10 being that you are ravenously hungry, that you can eat off your hand, okay? I want your hunger levels to hover around maybe anywhere between like a 6 to 7. Not terribly hungry that you're going to eat everything around you, but every few hours you notice that your body is getting hungry and it's time to eat. For some of you, that may be 2 to 4 hours, depending on your body. But hunger is always going to be a part of the equation when it comes to weight loss. Get it out of your head that you're never going to be hungry. Now let's go back to the video.
The body fights back against calorie restriction.
Harvard pediatrician.
True, the body does fight back against calorie restriction, but that's because your body does not want to lose weight at all. But that's not a bad thing. Your body is doing exactly what it should be doing, which is maintaining homeostasis. That is why this whole process is so hard, because at the end of the day, what's happening with your body with weight loss is that, yes, why does your hunger goes up? But why? Because the gut starts to sense that it's empty, and it sends a hormone named ghrelin from your brain to your brain to tell you, I need to eat. It's also going to lower leptin levels, which is your master metabolism hormone when it comes to burning of calories and fat, right? It's also going to lower your T3 levels, which is what slows down the metabolism. That's why starving yourself is not smart. And guess what? That's why having cheat meals is important. Oh my gosh, but that's a whole other conversation. Let's get back into the video.
Nutrition and endocrinologist Dr. David Ludwig is the report's lead author. He and his colleagues are suggesting a whole new approach called the carbohydrate insulin model. The idea is simple. If overeating isn't fueling obesity, stop counting calories and just cut carbohydrates to control your insulin levels.
Okay, this is where I have to stop, because this part right here is the one that just sent my entire head into a tailspin. This is nothing new. This is the same exact mantra that has been fed to you from day one. That what? Carbohydrates are bad. Carbohydrates are not bad, you guys. Carbs are just a simple macro. Some of you can eat them, some of you can't. Some of you guys have insulin resistance. Some of you are fine. There's nothing wrong with your body's reaction to carbohydrates. We've got to get out of our heads that carbs are bad. Let's go back into what else he has to say, because honey, he wasn't done with all of this confusion, okay?
Too much insulin, fat cells get programmed to hoard calories so that there aren't too many calories in the bloodstream, there are too few. And that's why we get hungry.
Now, more research is finding that low-carb diets are not only effective, they're sustainable.
Now, the research that's out there actually says that low-carb diets are effective, yes, but they are not the only diet protocol out there that simply works. In fact, what more research has shown is that it doesn't matter what your macro setup is, as long as you are eating less than your body needs and you're burning more calories than your body can keep up with taking in, you're going to lose weight. You can't get over the science. Now, again, the macro setup that you choose is definitely based on the individual. And you know what the most important thing is? It's actually your ability to adhere. So where he said that it's effective because it causes weight loss, yes, that's very true. It's not necessarily for everyone, okay? However, the sustainability is the other thing. And the real thing is that for a lot of people, maintaining that low carb diet actually is not easy for the long term, right? And you might want to look at other ways that you can be more inclusive with your diet, especially after you have reached whatever pinnacle you're trying to reach with your goals. Let's get back into the video.
Something Jennifer found out firsthand when she signed up for a low-carb study at Ohio State University in 2019, led by researcher Jeff Volek, who has been studying low-carb diets for 25 years. He put Jennifer on a diet that contained 37 grams of carbs a day.
That is an extremely low carbohydrate diet. When your diet is that low, not only is it low carbohydrate, but that's more specifically a ketogenic diet. So keep that in mind. This isn't just like low carb sub 100. This is 34 grams of carbohydrates a day. Do you realize that's absolutely no carbs, guys? That's no carbs, pretty much. Maybe carbs from vegetables. That's where you might be getting it from. Trace carbs from nuts and stuff. So this is a pretty extreme diet at the end of the day. Keep that in mind.
And had high protein and healthy fats like avocados and nuts. After just 6 weeks, Jennifer lost 20 pounds.
So this is just 6 weeks later, and all this white fat has been reduced from what we see.
Yes, and this is the type of fat you really want to target.
And kept going.
3 years later, how much weight have you lost in total?
All in total, about 88 pounds.
You lost 88 pounds.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a big deal.
Yes, it's
like a huge deal.
Yeah.
Jennifer says the diet wasn't easy at first. She was forced to cut out her favorite foods like pasta and potatoes, but seeing results was all the motivation she needed.
So once you get used to it and your kids get used to it, it's way easier because you can do it all as a family.
And she's not alone. Volek studies have found that people on low-carb diets can lose more than 10% of their body weight and keep it off.
What actually happens to
So very good results. And listen, I will always congratulate someone when they see fantastic results from their weight loss efforts. But at the end of the day, it just comes down to, and this is the question that so many of you have, is the low carb diet the magic bullet? Because this is what the industry sells you. Another diet, another method, another thing to try, right? Another trick in of the trade, right? For some of you, this might be a great lifestyle choice, particularly if you're someone who has high insulin resistance and your body, maybe you're even pre-diabetic. There's a lot of health issues. If you have any kind of issues with PCOS, if you have any kind of issues with your thyroid, higher fats, higher protein, and low carbohydrate diets are perfect for you. Yeah, they are. But if you don't have all of those things, it's not necessary. It's not a magic bullet, right? And at the end of the day, the one diet that is the most important is the, excuse me, got a frog in my throat. The one diet that's the most important is the one that you can stick to over time. So let's get back to the video.
the body when you're on a low carb diet?
When you limit carbohydrates, the body gets really good at burning its own body fat because it doesn't have a lot of sugar to burn for fuel.
Something that Jennifer says has been a game changer.
I feel great. It's easier for me to get up, it's easier for me to go to sleep, and I feel a lot more comfortable with myself.
Very good. So I think that those were some really valid points. But now that we've kind of ripped the Band-Aid up on that, and I've kind of given you a breakdown of what drove me absolutely crazy in this video, I want to flip the switch for a second. And I want to go towards another angle, right? Because if we're going to sit here and say that low carbohydrate diets should not be glorified, that low carbohydrate diets are not the magic bullet, I want to break it down a little bit more science as to why. And to give you the ability to, at the end of the day, think for yourself, because I like people who can think for themselves and make decisions based off of facts and not off of emotions. So there was a really wonderful article that was put out by Precision Nutrition, which is it's a certifying body that certifies trainers, it certifies nutritionists and other healthcare professionals to get their nutrition certification, especially with sports-specific nutrition, and also for those who specialize in body composition. All right. So thank you so much, Doug, for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this article. Now, the one thing that was said at the end of this video, which I didn't play yet, but I think I'm going to play it now because might as well, right? They were talking about how, again, this is the kicker. She didn't exercise and she didn't do all of these things in order to see the weight loss, right? And of course, you know what I got to say about that. So let's tag on this little last part on this video, and then let's go over and look at the breakdown of carbohydrates and whether or not they're bad for you, what's happening in your body through the Precision Nutrition featured article. So let's go back into this for just a little last part that I want to go into. Oopsie, there we go.
So one of the most interesting things about this new approach is that it also eliminates some of the stigma surrounding obesity, which is typically treated as a behavioral problem. But doctors often assume that people are overweight because they simply eat too much. But instead, it actually takes the blame away from the patient and looks at obesity as a biological problem, really focusing on regulating the hormone insulin. And that, they say, is what it's all about.
See, and now this goes back into that conversation we had in the last video, doesn't it? In the last two videos that we had, right? Where people are so adverse to being labeled as out of shape, unhealthy, as being labeled obese is now a slur, being labeled overweight, right? All at the same time, when the numbers in the United States shows that 2/3 of adults across the country are obese or overweight, okay? So that's a major problem. But what she just said is the good thing about this is that it takes that stigma away from people, takes away personal responsibility in the way that someone is looking in their health, so that way they don't feel bad about themselves, because now doctors aren't looking at other factors such as how much someone's eating and consuming and whether or not that's having an impact on their bodies, right? They're saying that it just takes away and only looks at hormones. Guys, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. You know what you have to do? And I'm sorry, this is what you're going to have to do, you guys. You have to get really into the nitty gritty of all of this. Where am I? Let me get back into here. You got to get into the neck of this. Okay, the neck of this, and I said this before, when we're talking about obesity, it is not just about how someone is eating. Sometimes there are hormonal issues that come into play. But guess what? For a lot of folks who are severely overweight, and just for some people who are overweight in general, there are also some behavioral issues that are there as well. People having issues with emotional eating, people having issues with binge eating disorder, people doing like mindless snacking all day, eating out of boredom and not even realizing that they're doing it because it's habitual. People not knowing how much to eat, when to eat, what to eat. So there's a lot of things that are behavioral that is getting pushed under the rug with this kind of study and this kind of information. And if you're going to tackle this, we got to get to the root of it and stop sugarcoating the deal. So let's go ahead and finish off this conversation.
But besides just, dropping the weight, I mean, are there other benefits here?
Tons of other benefits. In fact, that researcher, Jeff Volek, that we just spoke to, he's been studying low-carb diets for 25 years. And what's fascinating is that now they're doing new studies to figure out what else it's really affecting. They're looking at different types of cancers and even just your mental health. And the studies so far are really promising.
But low-carb has been around for a long time. I guess you never really knew that the science kind of backed it up.
Exactly.
We had lots of science on this. The fact that they're acting like there was no science to back any of this up is actually really insane, but okay.
The Atkins diet.
Al and I did keto for a while. Remember we were on that phase, but this is low carb, not no carb.
It is keto. It is keto. It is exactly keto. See, this is what I'm saying. These folks never know what they're talking about. Guys, a keto diet, usually with keto, actually, you're closer to 20 to 25 grams of carbohydrates a day, but this is 34. You're still pushing your body into ketogenesis. And when you're below 50, I believe, is where ketosis actually starts off, okay?
It's also interesting you pointed out she didn't exercise at all.
She did not exercise at all. She said she did not lift a finger. She didn't do anything differently. And keto, for example, is a more extreme form of this type of low carb. But again, it's, as Savannah said, it's low carb, but you can have a few things here and there.
But I will say,
sustainable then.
I will say the exercise, and not extreme exercise, but like we're doing that start today, the 30-day walking challenge. That improves, I think, your mental health combined with a low carb diet. And I mean, I've lost about 45 pounds in the last several months, and but again, but only. All
right, I'm going to stop right there so we can go into the next feature. So I want to push back on the final thing. And that is the thing about exercise. Why is everybody running away from being active? I just don't get it. But then folks want to complain about joint aches, about this, about their bodies not being the way that they want it, this, that, the other. Guys, simple exercise, walking every single day, doing body weight exercises, and eventually getting yourself into the weight room. That's what a lot of you need to be doing. Okay, let me not even sugarcoat it. A lot of you really need to be doing that for your longevity. Even if you're someone who has limited mobility and stuff like that, there are ways for you to get moving. Work with a trainer. If you can't afford a trainer, there's lots of resources on YouTube, free videos and stuff like that have people that specialize in working or doing videos and more for those who may be less mobile, right? If you have to do workouts from your chair using bands, light dumbbells, something, you want to make sure that you're getting yourself moving, right? A lot of you are here on my channel, you already work out, you already do your thing. So if weight loss is that thing that you're trying to push further along, going harder on your diet is one thing. But honey, I'm telling you right now, the body that you actually want is built under some weight and in the weight room. So let's go back for a second. So this is what I want to do. So as I told you, we have this wonderful video here from, this is a presentation from an article from my favorite website here, which is Precision Nutrition. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. So I want to take a look. Let me go ahead and turn this off for a second. And we're going to take a look at this article. Let's bring it up. All right. So boom, carb controversy, why low carb diets have got it all wrong. And the reason why I'm picking this particular article is because it spells out exactly my gripe with the low carb community. So this was written by Brian St. Pierre, who has a master's of science and is a registered dietitian. So this is official medical information. Let's go through this article real quick. So ask almost anyone what they need to do to lose a few pounds, and they'll probably say, cut back on the carbs. As a nutrition coach, I've heard it hundreds of times. Oh, yes, Dr. St. Pierre, so have I. Okay. While the low carb movement has waxed and waned in popularity since the Atkins revival of the late 90s and early 2000s, most folks now assume that carbohydrates are inherently fattening, which they are not. Health-conscious diners order bunless hamburgers, skip the baked potato side dish, and send the bread basket back to the kitchen, or they don't because they feel guilty about it, okay? In the past few years, I bet that you've heard or thought at least one of the following. Now, if this is you, type that one in the chat. Okay, if you are live, if you're watching this in a replay, go down to the comments and tell me if you've ever thought of these myths yourselves. So, carbs. Number one, carbs spike your blood sugar and insulin, which slathers on the body fat. Oh my God. So do you think that if you eat carbohydrates, your insulin levels spike and automatically you're going to gain fat? Put that one in the chat. Go down to the comments if that's you. Number two, carbs, especially sugar and grains, cause inflammation. Do you think that if you eat carbohydrates, your insides are going to just self-combust? Go ahead and admit it. Put that one in the chat. Okay, carbs are not an essential part of the diet like fat and protein. Listen, this is nothing to be embarrassed about, but if that's you, let's be honest here. Put that one in the chat if you think that carbs are not an essential part of the diet in the way that fats and proteins are. If you believe that, don't worry, you're not alone. It seems simple and logical, which is the problem, right? These simplistic statements about good foods, quote unquote, and quote unquote bad foods ignore biological complexity and the bigger picture. So let's go ahead and take a closer look into this, okay? So the first question, we got a series of questions we're going to answer in this article. Number one, do carbs increase insulin levels? Yes, they do. Oh my gosh. Now, next question. Does increased insulin after meals lead to fat gain? No. Okay. Insulin is actually a satiety hormone. So in other words, it just makes you full. So the idea that on its own it leads to fat gain doesn't make sense. Now, I want to go ahead. I want to say something to you about this, okay? Because there's an important point I have to bring up. The truth of the matter is that for so many of you, right? What you think about insulin has been miscommunicated. Let's just say, I don't want to say he lied to you. I just want to say that you've been misguided, right? Insulin is not a bad hormone per se, right? It's not. It is a storage hormone for sure, okay? Now, the other thing that I want you to keep in mind about insulin is that it plays an important role in muscle protein synthesis. Now, what does that mean? Now, you guys know when they talk about in fitness about you going ahead and making sure that you get your carbohydrates in after your workout, right? Take in your carbohydrates along with your protein, and that's going to help with muscle protein synthesis or the building of new muscle. Why are we telling you to eat those carbohydrates? Because carbohydrates spike insulin, and that insulin spike helps to shuttle those carbohydrates into your muscle, replacing the glycogen lost during your workouts. And it also helps with the building of new tissue when we talk about the place of, building muscle, okay? So insulin is not just about storing fat and doing all these bad things in your body. It plays a crucial role. You guys got to keep your eyes wide awake because the fitness industry is here to deceive. Let's get back into our article here. All right. So the next thing that we're looking at here, let me go ahead and let me bring my camera back up here. What happened to my camera? There we go. There I am. All right. Let's go back over here. So the next part, let's go into the next question. We've got a series of questions here. So the next question is, building it on the fly. Here we go. All right, I went a little bit too far. Okay. All right, so here's the next one that a lot of you guys ask, right? So are carbs really inflammatory? Well, that depends. Are we talking about processed corn syrup? Probably. But if we're talking about whole grains, not really. So this whole thing about the inflammatory response to carbohydrates for a lot of you does not apply. If you have insulin sensitivity, if you have gluten sensitivity, if you have any kind of IBS or things like that, if you have issues in your digestive system, then yes, carbs may be kind of inflammatory for you. So you have to take that into consideration. But for a lot of you, that's not the case, right? So no, carbs do not lead to an inflammatory response in most people, and grains are not bad. Are carbs less important than protein, fat, and the many micronutrients that contribute to our health? Well, if you're talking about processed carbs, the answer is a resounding yes, because of course, processed carbohydrates, guys, have no space in our diet, do they? Not at all, right? Not at all. But when we're talking about things like whole grains and the nutrients that come from them, that is good for you. If you're talking about whole grains, minimally processed carbs, that's a different story, he says. Can a low-carb diet work to help people lose weight? Of course it can. Of course it can, okay? Now, is it because it is low in carbs? Maybe, maybe not. Here's the thing that I want to go ahead and just throw again. I want to throw this in your corner when it comes to the carbohydrate talk. Whenever you go ahead and you are reducing your carbohydrates on the whole, you're taking out a complete macronutrient from your diet. Once that happens, you guys, you know what else happens when you take out complete macronutrients from your diet? You automatically lower the amount of calories in it, right? So it's not like it's some magic formula. You drop out the carbs, you drop down the carbs. Overall, the number of calories that you eat are decreased. The number of calories that you eating decrease is, guess what? Calories in, calories out. Again, you cannot get over the calories in, calories out, right? So I hope today that I'm doing is just shaking some logic into you and making you wake up to say, hey, this is how it is. This is what we're talking about, okay? This is what works. This is the real science. The more you guys understand, the better you can execute. Let's go back into the next point here. Let's go back into this next point. All right, next point on the docket. Next point. So, can eating an appropriate amount of carbs actually help you to look, feel, and perform your best? You bet it can. Now, here's a problem with not eating carbs. As a weight loss strategy, cutting carbs while reducing the total number of calories clearly works pretty well for some people. If it didn't, then Atkins would never have been as popular as it was in the first place. Now, here's the thing though, carb reduction cost us. Oh my gosh, we got to say it again. What, guys? Carb reduction costs us. You see, most of us require some level of carbohydrates to function at our best over the long term, especially for those of you who work out. Sure, we can cut carbs temporarily if we need to lose weight quickly, but for most of us, keeping carbs too low for too long can have a disastrous consequence. This is especially true for those of us who work out. So remember the video how this woman did not exercise at all, but she's eating 34 grams of carbohydrates a day. You guys out there love to train. Can you imagine having that kind of a diet doing all the weight training, the running, the this, the that you like to do, it's hard. It definitely is. Now, if your fats are super high, and when I say super high, when you go on a low carbohydrate diet like that, your fats have to be over like 80, 85, 90. I've even had clients on this kind of a plan eating 100 grams of fats a day, still losing weight. But at the end of the day, guess what? We were in a caloric deficit. Okay. Let's keep going. Hit that like button right now. If you are not subscribed to the channel, now is the time for you to get subscribed, and make sure that you guys, if you have any kind of like advice, if you've been on low carbohydrate diets before and it's worked for you, go down below and tell us how you've been able to maintain the weight loss. If you're someone that it didn't work for and you went absolutely bat insane for it, tell us what it is that you do now that's helped you to see the results that you have. The thing is, guys, when you share in this community, you add tremendous value because your experiences matter as well. Let's go ahead and get back into this. Now, if you're sedentary, your carbs need to be lower, right? So not working out or anything your carbs need to be lower. So you might be able to get away with more restriction, like that 34 grams of carbohydrate diet that lady was on, okay? But if you like to exercise regularly and enthusiastically, restricting your carbs intake too drastically can lead to the following. Now, this is where you guys need to pay close attention. This is true whether you exercise or not, but especially if you are someone who is active. When you decrease your carbs too low, this is what will happen to you. Decrease thyroid output, increase cortisol output, decrease testosterone. Man, that's a dangerous thing for you, especially impaired mood and cognitive function. If you've never met anyone who is hangry because of low carbs, honey, you don't want to be there. Muscle catabolism, meaning that your body will start to break down muscle tissue as it starts to starve itself for glucose, which is carbohydrates, and the body can make carbohydrates or broken down glycogen, which is broken down glucose. It can make it out of your muscle. Yay, so now you're working out and doing all that stuff and losing muscle at the same time. What the heck, right? Suppressed immune function is another side effect of having too low of a carbohydrate diet. So in other words, your metabolism might slow down, your stress hormones go up, and your muscle building hormones go down. All a disastrous thing for those of you who want to stay toned, who want to stay in shape, who want to have a body that looks strong, and that feels strong, and that makes you feel like you can live your life while still seeing your body do what it do, and just feeling like you're in control of things, guys, because at the end of the day, what is the point of doing any of this stuff if you can't maintain it for life, right? It's insane. So be mindful about the types of diets you choose and the way that you eat. So to go on, in other words, your metabolism might, we did that already. You feel lousy, spaced out, sluggish, cranky, and maybe even sick, all right? And that's another thing. When you go on low carbohydrates for the first time, they often talk about like a keto flu. Your body goes through like this withdrawal and weird stuff that starts happening when you're on these low carbohydrate diets. And sometimes the prolonged low carb diets can have an impact on the gut health, and other things as well. Okay, electrolyte balance, all of that stuff gets thrown off when you're on these diets for too long. Now, the most vexing of all, you probably don't even lose that much weight in the long term. Oh my gosh, so you're on this diet and you probably won't even lose that much weight. Let's go into why he said that. If you're interested in the details on some research, read on. If you want to know just what to do, skip ahead. Okay, we're going to continue to read on, okay? So why is it that as you go into these low carbohydrates that why did he say that they don't work as effectively in the long run? Here's why. Now listen to this. You got to hear the science on this. Decreased thyroid. I just talked about that a little bit earlier. So in order to function properly and to maintain appropriate metabolism, our body produces an important hormone called T3. This is your thyroid hormone. T3 is the most active thyroid hormone and is incredibly important for blood glucose maintenance and proper metabolic function. Now listen to this. Low T3 levels can lead to a condition called euthyroid sick syndrome, in which people are constantly cold and sluggish. So imagine your metabolic body motor idling at a slow speed. So if you're someone who has like low body temperature all the time, you have a hard time staying warm, your hands are always cold and stuff, you might want to have your thyroid checked because there could be an issue with that. And I know that I used to have a lot of issues, not so much, I used to be cold all the time. Mine was linked more to iron levels and my anemia. I don't deal with that anymore. That's been taken care of. But that can also be a form or a symptom of euthyroid sick syndrome, okay? A landmark study known as the Vermont study, now this is an important one, showed that T3 is very sensitive to calorie and carbohydrate intake. When calories and carbs are too low, your T3 levels drop. In addition, the Vermont study found that another hormone, reverse T3 or RT3, is also sensitive to calorie and carbohydrate intake. Reverse T3, as the name implies, inhibits T3. I want to stop here for a moment because reverse T3 is such an important hormone that does not get talked about enough. Now, I talk about hormone health ad nauseum here on my channel. Some of you may have heard me talk about the importance of getting your hormone levels checked. Carbohydrates have a really crucial role, like you just learned, in the maintenance of T3. Now, how does T3 work in the body? Your pituitary gland fires your thyroid to release a hormone called T4. And the T4 gets converted into T3. Now, when T3 is active in the body, it's really important for the metabolism and keeping your metabolism running. And if your body is not properly converting that T4 into T3, what can also be happening is that hormone they just talked about, RT3, which is T3's dark matter, right? And what it likes to do is sit in those receptor cells where your T3 is supposed to be acting on and block them. So now you have all this T3 floating about your blood just like this. It's like this in your body. It looks like this. No, it doesn't. So anyway, it looks like it's floating around, can't do a thing, okay? And your thyroid levels start to plummet. And then that's when you start seeing the weight gain. That's when you start seeing your body do some weird stuff. You're doing all this dieting and yada, yada. The body's not doing anything, right? And then you're looking at yourself and you're like, what's going on? You go to your doctor. Your doctor's only looking at TSH and T4 and telling you that you're normal when your T3 and your RT3 is out of whack. Now imagine you're going through all this, and one of the things that can help you is if you go ahead and you eat carbohydrates. If you put carbs into your diet, this can help with the body's production of T3. This is why it's so important. And this is why as well, when I talk about hormonal health and thyroid, you guys have to understand that science and know exactly what it is you have to look for when it comes to your numbers. That is another conversation. I'll go ahead and put down in the description of this video some places where I talked about thyroid hormone and how you guys can be smarter about requesting certain tests with your doctors, because that's really important for a lot of you who are struggling with your weight. Let's get back into the article. Okay, let's get back into this. So getting enough carbs can lower reverse T3. Not eating enough carbs will increase it, thus blocking the important work of T3. That is the mechanisms by which your metabolism is slowed down. The Vermont study is far from alone. Other research confirms that ketogenic or ultra low carb diets reduce T3 levels as rapidly as starvation. You guys, it is not a joke. Let's move on. Additional studies show that when calories are held constant, in the case of, let's say, 2,100 calories, reducing carbohydrates from 409 grams to 202 grams and then to 104 grams significantly reduce serum T3 levels, okay? So when they had a diet that was simply the same calories over these three setups, the first setup they had was 409 grams at 2,100 calories, and they marked what the body did there. They took the same 2,100 calories, left the calories the same, but changed the carbohydrates to 202 grams, which means that they played around and add those extra grams into the fats or proteins. But when they did that slight change, T3 levels dropped, okay? And then when they reduced from 202 to 104 grams, T3 levels significantly dropped as well in the blood. And it went from 91 to 86 to 69 nanograms per deciliter, respectively. So that's a pretty significant drop. Finally, French researchers examined 4 calorically equal diets at 2,800 calories, in this case, lasting 1 week each. 2 of these diets contained 250 grams of carbs, which is a fairly typical proportion. The low-carb diet included 71 grams of carbs, and the high-carb diet included 533 grams of carbs. So they broke up these diets to 2,800 calories, okay? So T3 levels were equal on the normal and high-carb diets. So that was one thing that they saw. But however, on the low carb diet, they fell the glucose levels, or sorry, the T3 levels in the blood fell on average. Okay. And of course, our T3 did go up with these low carb diets, but not on the standard or high carb diets. Okay. So guys, what is this getting to? What I'm telling you from the thyroid's perspective, low carb diets are not ideal for many of you. Okay. So let's go on. We talked about the cortisol and the testosterone. So I want to go ahead and take a look at that. My guys in the audience, this one may be actually really important for you to keep in mind. Research has consistently shown that people who exercise regularly need to eat enough carbs on their testosterone will fall while their cholesterol levels rise. That is a dangerous combination. This is a surefire recipe for losing muscle and gaining fat. I recently started working with someone who I did some macros for, okay? And this person is on he's on a one of those, what is it called? The carnivore diet right now. It's really popular, the carnivore diet. And it doesn't work for everyone. Some people it works well for. But he is a man in his 50s, and he was telling me about how it's been hard for him to lose weight. He's seeing himself gain more fat, and he's not understanding why his body isn't responding in the way that he expected to on this carnivore diet. Can you guys see exactly why that would be? The carnivore diet has little to no grains and hardly any vegetables, fibers, veggies, right? It's all meat and fats, and that's it. And for my men out there, that increases your cortisol, it lowers your testosterone. And if your testosterone levels go down, guess what else is going to go up? Your estrogen levels, because guys do have that in their bodies. Ladies, the same thing for you. You have testosterone. Your testosterone levels go down. You're not building or keeping any muscle. And your energy levels are going to be through the floor. You guys, this is such an important conversation. You have no idea. Let's get back into it. Okay. I know this is a lot of heady stuff when it comes to the science, but I want you to really understand the why and what's going on with this so you can, again, make better decisions for yourself. Incidentally, it's also a marker for excessive training stress. So when cortisol goes up, testosterone goes low, that's also a sign of overtraining. In a study in Life Sciences, men who ate a high carbohydrate versus a low carbohydrate diet for 10 days had higher levels of testosterone and sex hormone binding globulin. That's another hormone that's important for the regulatory of your sex hormones, and lower levels of cortisol. So just having a higher carbohydrate diet versus low changed the game for you men out there. A few years later, another study took this research a step further. This time, the subjects included men and women who exercise regularly. And in addition to considering the effect of their diet on hormones, researchers put them through some performance tests. So this is where it's going to get real interesting. Now, once again, when the subjects ate a low carb diet, their testosterone levels and other anabolic hormones went down while their cortisol went up. And after following a low carb diet for just 3 days, only 2 of the 6 participants were able to complete the cycling test. So after a few days, the guys, they were wiped out. Meanwhile, when following the higher carbohydrate diet for 3 days, all 6 participants were able to complete the test. Y'all still think that these low carb diets are the key, the magic pill to weight loss? I think you're starting to see that it may not. But we're not done. In 2010, researchers reconsidered the same question, this time in relation to intense exercise. Now, in this particular study, subjects eating the low carb diet, where 30% of their calories came from carbs, saw a drop of 43% in their testosterone to cortisol ratio. Not good. Meanwhile, the control group, who got 60% of their calories from carbohydrates, saw no change in their testosterone to cortisol ratios. This is the conclusion. Inadequate carbohydrate intake can decrease testosterone, which no one wants, whether you are a man or a woman, increase your cortisol, which no one wants, which is going to help to pile on belly fat especially, and negatively affects performance. Now, I want to go into something specifically for my ladies, and you guys need to pay attention to this section right here. We now know that eating too low carbs for too long can cause significant disruptions to many hormones. This especially is true for women whose bodies may be more sensitive than men's to low energy or carbohydrate availability, and perhaps it's because of the evolutionary importance of having enough body fat and nutrients to sustain a pregnancy. Ladies, here's the other thing this is why my channel is so important, because a lot of this stuff isn't talked about by fitness professionals and stuff like that, because a lot of these influencers aren't into the science, they're just into the fad, right? And you're being pushed these diets. I've seen the most crazy training and diet programs by so-called coaches, influencers, and more that ruin women's bodies. And you have ladies then coming to me asking them to fix them. Roxy, my body is just doing all kinds of crazy things. Okay, my body, it's not responding. Our bodies are sensitive to carbohydrates, ladies, in ways that we need them. Our bodies are sensitive to too low fat diets. Our bodies are sensitive to putting your calories too low because of our reproductive system. So the studies that I showed you a little bit earlier were both for men and women, but for especially men, some of that stuff really did apply. But this section right here is for the ladies. You can hear my cat monkey. Come here, let me see if I can get him. Let's see if he'll say hi to you. Because since he wants to go ahead, look at him. Do you see this cat, you guys? You guys, he's hefty, but he's not fat. He's just big bone. You see him? He got to get out of here. I gotta say, he was making all this noise. I might as well put him on camera. So yeah, ladies, really important to you. Let's get back into it. All right. So let's get back into it. We're almost done here. We're almost done. So let's get back into this importance right here for the ladies. And I want to just wrap it up with this. So going on with the ladies, while organs like our gonads and thyroid make hormones, mission control of our hormone production system is the central nervous system, the brain. Our hypothalamus and pituitary glands, which sit in the brain, are exquisitely sensitive to things like energy availability and stress, which include life stress and exercise stress. Your body doesn't know the difference between it. The hypothalamus and the pituitary work together with other glands, such as the adrenal glands. And this partnership is often known as the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal, or the HPA system axis, okay? Thus, when women don't eat enough calories or carbohydrates, or even when women eat enough calories but not enough carbohydrates, they face hypothalamic amenorrhea. So you lose your periods due to this imbalance in that system. Very, very, very dangerous line to be crossing for us ladies. Even if you're a woman that is in menopause, your hormones still play a vital role. This means disrupting hormones and stopped or irregular periods because of the HPA's response to perceived starvation and stress. In hypothalamic amenorrhea, hormone levels plummet and the cascade is often felt throughout the system. So you end up with low levels of luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone, estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So all of our levels drop the more we are on these diets. In addition, we've already seen that not eating enough carbohydrates tends to increase cortisol levels. When cortisol levels rise, it's a signal that your HPA axis to further decrease pituitary function, which isn't good because that impacts your thyroid. So you're setting yourself up for possible low output thyroid to hypothyroidism. All right. So guys, all right, I want to stop here because this was a lot of information. I really feel that we covered so much today. And I thank you so much for being here because this stuff, listen, this stuff it's a hard pill to swallow, and it's hard for a lot of people to just conceptualize, right? The diet industry is not here necessarily for your health. And if you're anyone who's been going through this before, I want to hear your comments below. Have you done low carb diets? Do they work for you? All right. And what have you been able to do to maintain the weight you've lost? Post that below because I love to hear success stories. Now, for those of you where it did not work, I want to hear what didn't work for you. What were some of the side effects that you've seen from it that were negative for you? And then even further, what I would like to hear is what's working for you now. What has been the key to your success? Remember, when you share your story, you add tremendous value. You guys have no idea. This isn't just about me talking to you or talking at you. This is about us getting in a dialogue and learning from each other's experiences. So there's no right or wrong answer here. But laying out the science before you allows you to see what some of your options are and whether or not you want to do that lower carb option for the long run. And if you are not having success with it, that you don't feel badly about yourself. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, I told you guys that, listen, if you need help, I'm here for you. I'm taking on new clients. This is the link right here. It's also below in the description for this video. Let's go ahead and sign you up for a complimentary 20-minute clarity call where we can discuss where you're at right now, where you want to be, and how to get there. And I want to go ahead before we wrap things up to see if we have any comments in here. So we have Adam. What's going on, Adam? Good to see you here. I lost 170 pounds myself. Fantastic, Adam. Did you do it with a high carb or the low carb diet? Because a lot of people have success with that, and I love that. And if you've been able to do that, tell us what kind of successes you've had in keeping it off. Let's see. Let's talk about that. We also have, let's see, Doug. Doug says, that's a big cat. He must have some Maine Coon in him. Yeah, you know, I think he has a brother. And the brother isn't as big as he is. But when I looked at him next to another cat, I thought the other cat was little, but he's a big guy too. So I don't know, y'all. They got some lion, Maine Coon, Norwegian forest cat. He's just a big guy, and he's not fat. He's big bone. He's big bone. Okay, he's got some muscle on him. All right. Who else do we have in here? Doug says, I'm not working on counting carbs right now. I'm working on eating real foods, no processed foods. And I think that's actually the best way to do it, Doug. We have Adam who says, as for keeping it off, I trained so hard, my metabolism is faster than a cheetah. And at the end of the day, again, you know, it comes back to you guys doing the exercise as that other component. You know, listen, guys, you're not going to be able to do any of this without the exercise. I mean, yes, you can do it without, of course you can lose weight without exercise. But if you really want to see the results that you want to see, you got to get into the exercise component. All right. So, you know, guys, I thank you so much for joining me for today's video. Today's conversation was wonderful. Again, if you are someone who needs some help, go down below, go ahead and set up your complimentary call. And if you don't want to get any coaching just yet, but you want to support the channel, this stuff, you know, takes a lot of work, costs a lot of money too, these lights and the programs, this, that, the other, you want to support the channel, please join as a member below. You'll unlock my video library. I got so many videos in there to share with you guys. Go ahead and unlock that. And then starting this month, we'll be releasing a workout that you can do in the gym workout once a month, one workout a month, written that you can print out PDF. And then also the coaching message of the month, which I like to put in there for you guys to get you up and focused on what you need to do to take everything to the next level. And of course, as you join as a member, whenever I see your comments and questions in the comments, you get first priority with everything. Okay, guys? All right, listen, I love you guys. If you are someone that's on a quest to change your body, I want you to watch the next video that's going to be posted right over here. This is one of the videos from my YouTube channel that YouTube thinks will be great for you based off of what you're looking for and stuff like that. So click that link. Watch that video next, and I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for joining me today, guys.